Buying your first guitar can be super overwhelming, especially when you're in a store with a salesman pushing you on what to buy. So in this video, we're going to cover what different basic type of guitars that are out there, what kind of guitar you should go with, including for kids, and what specific guitars I recommend to new players. We're going to start with figuring out what kind of guitar you want to go with, and then we're going to get more specific. To start, we have the steel string acoustic guitar like this one. They're the ones you see around the most. They're self-sufficient to play, so you don't need an amplifier or anything in order to hear them. However, they are the hardest for a beginner to start with. Then we have the electric guitar. They also have steel strings, but they need an amplifier to be heard, unlike acoustic guitars, which means more accessories to buy and keep handy. Electric guitars tend to be easier to play than steel string acoustic guitars, but not always. And last, we have a classical guitar. The classical guitar is another acoustic guitar, but it has nylon strings instead of steel strings. So classical guitars are also self-sufficient, which is nice. The bigger and softer strings are easier to press down, however the necks are thicker, which means more stretching for our fingers. So now let's cover which kind of guitar to choose for an adult, then we'll cover kids. The best advice I can give is to go with the guitar that matches the music you love and not the guitar that's easiest to play or anything like that. I mean, that music inspired you to want to start guitar, so that's what you should imitate. So I would choose a guitar type that is in the majority of songs that you really love. If you're not sure what kind of guitar was used in a song, Google will most likely have your answer. So for example, if you Google search what guitar was used in Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, it'll tell you David Gilmour used a couple of Martin guitars. You can also Google search the guitar itself and find out if it was an acoustic, electric, or a classical guitar. Once you've narrowed down the type of guitar you want, then we want to figure out a brand, a price, and all of that, which we'll cover in a sec. As for younger kids, I almost always recommend a 3/4 size classical guitar to start, which is smaller than the usual guitar, and those softer strings make it a bit easier for them to get started. Once you hit that like 11 or 12-year-old range, I recommend that they follow the same advice as for an adult and go with a guitar type from the music that inspires them, but at a regular size. Okay, we now know what type of guitar we want, so it's time to go shopping. And I'm going to cover what to look for in each of those types of guitars when you're looking to buy as a beginner or for your first time. We're going to start with just overall shopping tips that go across the board for all of these. Number one, and this is a big one, don't make your purchase based on a guitar's look and style alone, assuming you'll just love the guitar based on that. I bought a nearly $900 guitar one time when I was newer to playing, assuming I would love it and play it all the time. It ended up just collecting dust in the closet for years before I ended up just reselling it because I just didn't enjoy playing it that much. Number two, avoid unknown brands, especially on sites like Amazon. Also avoid the brand First Act because they're just terrible guitars. Stick to well-known brands like Fender, Epiphone, or Yamaha, and to dedicated music stores or websites like Guitar Center. Or better yet, go to your local guitar store. If you're not sure about a brand, Google it and get people's general opinions about it. Number three, buy in person if possible. Even the pickup in store option is better than shipping to your own home. The guitar will just be better taken care of in the shipping process that way. I had a student one time order, I think it was a $1,700 Gibson SG guitar online, and they shipped it to their apartment, and when they opened the box, the finish was chipped from somebody in the process dropping it. They then had to deal with the return process and then waiting for another guitar to ship that they hoped showed up in good condition. And number four, which is the most important one for players just starting out, spend conservatively. I've seen too many students quit guitar because they bought a really expensive guitar thinking that it'll inspire them to practice. There are great guitars out there at good prices. Save your money and use that really nice and expensive guitar as a reward incentive that you've earned by sticking and playing the guitar and to just practicing over time. Now that we know what kind of guitar we want to start with and we've gone through our shopping tips, let's get specific. We're going to start with steel string acoustic guitars. The kind you see the most are called dreadnoughts, which are those big and bulky acoustic guitars. What I actually recommend to beginners are called concert acoustic guitars, What gives these the edge for beginners is that they're typically smaller and it makes them easier to hold and play. Now you can find acoustic guitar packs which come with stuff like guitar picks, a carrying case, a tuner, and so on, but I actually recommend against it for acoustic guitars. You're just not getting your money's worth and will do better buying things separately. As far as price goes, on the low end you'll see concert acoustics starting at like $180 and up. I'd maybe cap what I would spend at about $250 or so for a first acoustic guitar. If you're looking for something more specific, I'd recommend the Fender FA135CE, which last I checked was about $250, but I've seen it go on sale for like $200 or even less sometimes. Fender's a brand I use all the time and I tend to like their guitars. The 135 also has that cutaway, this here, so that you can reach these higher frets, which is really nice. Another lower price concert acoustic is the Yamaha FS800, which also sounds really good and comes from a brand that personally I'm a big fan of. When it comes to electric guitars, just expect upfront that you're going to spend more money because you need more than just the guitar itself. To make things easy and contradictory to the acoustic guitar advice I gave, a lot of the time I do recommend guitar packs for people, especially kids. That all-in-one box is really handy so that you don't have to get overwhelmed about what you're buying. And if you get the right one, the guitar itself can actually be pretty decent quality. When I do recommend guitar packs, I almost always point people in the direction of the Squier guitar packs. The guitars themselves are good quality, though the amplifier they come with tend to be cheap and not sound very good. You can expect to pay maybe $275 for one of those packs unless, you find a good sale. However, if you want to up your quality a bit, and I would recommend this, you could get a Squier guitar separately for about $200, and you get your choice between a Stratocaster, a Telecaster, or a Mustang, and they're all really cool guitars, and I'd recommend any of them. Personally, I'm a big Telecaster fan myself. And you can buy a better quality amplifier separately, which personally I'd recommend the Boss Katana Mini X, which is just an awesome practice amp. After that, all you need is a guitar cable, which is cheap, so add the guitar, the practice amp, and the cable together, and you're looking at maybe around $370. So it's $100 more than a pack, but your quality is just better overall, and the amp is going to be a lot better quality and a lot more fun. And the last thing that I'll note about Squier guitars is that you can always upgrade them as well later. Get handy with a soldering iron, pick out your parts, and just go to town. I've really modified this Squier guitar with new pickups, new hardware, that has become one of my favorite guitars to play because it's got that personal touch from me working on it. And last, we're going to cover classical guitars. Like I mentioned before, if it's a kid that's younger than like 11, I will go with a smaller 3/4 size classical guitar. For parents, I always recommend the 3/4 Yamaha CGS student guitar because the quality is good at a good price at about, I think it was $150 last time I checked. For adults, I would recommend the full-size Yamaha C40. It's at a good price point at about $170 for the quality, and it just has a beautiful sound to it. And like the steel string acoustic guitar, the guitar itself is all you need to start playing. Tell me about your first guitar or what you would recommend to beginners in the comments. I always love hearing about a player's first guitar and just the story behind it. In the description, I'll leave a link to the gear page on my website where I have links to guitars that I recommended in the video. Now get back to playing and remember, happy practicing.